Hey fellas, one of the pieces of feedback that you have given us is that you love when we create these cheat sheets, one-page PDF, free downloads that support you doing your inner work based on the topics of our podcast. For example, we have created lists like, for books, 12 books every man must read, 18 business books every leader must read. Some of our more popular podcasts like How to Last Longer in Bed, we created a free PDF for 5 practices to last longer in bed, or 5 practices to become a mentally tougher man. Well, now we have collected every single PDF that we have ever created and put it into one simple place for you to download. It's at doinnerwork.com/resources. Or you could just go to doinnerwork.com and there's a resources tab. And every single PDF that we've ever created is available for download at any time. And then today's episode, which is about designing the next year of your life, at the end of the episode, there's going to be a 20-minute guided meditation, which we are also making available for free download at doinnerwork.com/resources. And if you have listened to some of our other podcasts around design the next decade of your life, those guided meditations, which have never been available for free download, will also be there at doinnerwork.com/resources. Hey, this is Dominic, and this is your home for the cutting edge conversations on optimizing your personal performance, lighting up your sex life, and living a purpose-driven life of your own design.
These are the topics that Dominic and I have both struggled with in our own lives and still don't always get right. This is Brian. Welcome to the Great Man Podcast.
Hey man, are you still doing your breathwork exercises in the morning?
Dude, it's a morning routine because it's a routine. I go, of course I'm doing it sometimes.
Well, is it an everyday practice for you?
Just about. I would say there's a few things. We've talked about Mukha Bhastrika before. I do that just about every morning.
What is that for people who have never heard what Mukha Bhastrika is?
If you haven't heard of Mukha Bhastrika, it means expel with force. And it's a breathwork technique where take a deep breath in, fully in, as much air as you can get, and then forcefully exhale until it's all the air is out of your lungs.
Empty every bit of air from your lungs. And it's like the first thing you do in the morning, right? Like when you're still groggy, you still got the sleep cobwebs on you.
Now, my girlfriend and I moved in together. Big news.
Congratulations, man.
This is the first time I've ever lived with another human. Well, that's not true. I've had roommates, but a girlfriend. First
another
time
human with feminine parts.
Right. Fair.
Okay.
And I've noticed that my morning routine, I've had to re-establish what that is for me while living with a girlfriend. And so the Mukha Bhastrika used to be jump out of bed naked. Sorry for any visuals out there. And really, because you bend over while you do this. It's not a super sexy pose. And so I don't want to just jump out of bed naked and do this really unsexy pose in front of my girlfriend. I'm not there yet.
I think
maybe one day. Maybe one day we'll be there.
I think you should throw her in at the deep end, see how she responds to it,
man. It's not a bad idea.
Let her see you.
What I've noticed, I've gone out to make my bulletproof coffee, and then I will have forgotten to do my Mukha Bhastrika, and I'll notice that, oh man, I'm kind of tired. I could even go back to bed. And I'm like, wait, I haven't done any breath work. And by the way, this exercise takes 15 seconds. Yeah, if that. I immediately feel great.
All right.
And so I'd say the morning routine is still in place, but still figuring out what that looks like while living with my girlfriend.
Okay, man. Well, if you want to hear 11 other ideas for your morning routine, it's still one of our top 10 most downloaded episodes. Is called 11 Ideas for Your Morning Routine. I forget what episode number it is, but we've recently eclipsed 50 episodes, man.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what number this will be. It'll be somewhere in the low 50s, but we've done 50 episodes this year, man. High five.
High five.
Could you hear that? Let us know if you heard that. Mm-hmm. And let us take a look forward to the year that is ahead, 2020. We often talk about here that the men that come to us want to live and design an intentional life, design a future that you can't wait to live into. And some of our most downloaded podcasts are the 2 that we did on how to design the next decade of your life. One of it's looking back at the last 10 years of your life, and one of them is looking forward at the next 10 years of your life.
These are the ones where you had that really sexy voice meditation.
Yeah, so those episodes had like 20 minutes of talk time up front and then about 20-minute guided meditation at the end of it, which we have now made available for free download at doinnerwork.com/resources. doinnerwork.com/resources. It has the 2 meditations, the guided meditations with lovely background music. You can download those and listen to those at any time you want. And the meditation that's going to be at the end of today's episode will also be there for free download as well. So go check that out.
Yeah, it's worth noting if you listen to the podcast, is there music in the background in the podcast?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I had those professionally produced afterwards.
Okay, great. So if you want to do the meditation with beautiful background noise, download it.
Go download it.
Otherwise, you want to listen to the janky one, then hit the podcast.
Yeah, then go back to the podcast. All right. 2020 is upon us. Every year, you're kind of confronted with that. What do I want the next year to be? How did I do this year? A lot of people set the New Year's resolutions. You've heard ad nauseum about how New Year's resolutions fail. And so we want to help you get equipped, get ready for having the best year of your life in the year ahead.
I'm pumped about this year. We'll talk about some of that in this podcast. But I'm also annoyed and ready for 2021.
Why are you annoyed for 2021? We haven't gotten.
I know that's the whole idea, because I can't tell you how many corporate strategies I've heard, or even personal strategies that are like 2020, like vision 2020. Yeah, I'm just like, God, can we get over 2020 already? Can we just consider another year as opposed to like what perfect vision is?
Corporate strategy puns are the worst.
Goodness.
All right. If you were to imagine that the next year of your life was going to be the most meaningful and fulfilling, prosperous, memorable year of your life, then how would it unfold, right? What experiences would you want to have? Who would you want to experience those things with? What relationships would you need to forge and deepen? What relationships would you need to leave behind? A lot of these are the same questions that we asked in the 10-year horizon, but now you have a chance to look at the next 365 days of your life. And these are big questions that we oftentimes don't allow ourselves a lot of time to explore, to do introspection on. And quite frankly, most of us don't have proper guidance on how to navigate some of these.
Yeah, life's going quickly. Like, we're moving fast. We got things to do. We've got goals that we probably set in 2018 for 2019. And so we move fast. And an analogy that I like to use, when I was playing baseball, if I was running from, let's say, first base to second base, if you've ever played baseball before, you can't see the whole field as you're running. And so they have a coach that's on third base. Right. And they call it the third base coach. And so he's going to signal. You can visually look at him. He's going to signal to either keep running or hold up, stop, right? Stay on second base. And one of the reasons that you have to look at a coach is because when we're moving so fast, not only can we not see very well, but we also can't hear. Not just the wind running through like the helmet, but just our ability to hear as we're moving quickly, as we're sprinting, is reduced. Yeah. And so I feel like these opportunities like we have here, Dominic, to take a look, to reflect, it's the opportunity to slow it down so we can actually see, so we can actually listen.
Yeah, I dig that. So we talk often here about Napoleon Hill. He wrote the book Outwitting the Devil and Think and Grow Rich. The number one enemy to living an intentional life is drifting, right? He talks about drifting. There's a quote from another book from Dr. Joe Dispenza. If you don't know him, he wrote the book Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. He bases this quote on neuroscientific research. 90% of our thoughts today are the same as they were yesterday. 90% of our thoughts today are the same as they were yesterday. So what is the implication of that? The implication of that is if every single day 90% of your thoughts are the same, then you are living into a future of sameness. You are drifting. And for someone who's a high performer, someone who wants to have control over the life, someone who wants to live a purpose-driven life, a life with a spark, a passion, a fire, who's constantly getting better, there is nothing more demotivating to you than to live into a future of more of the same, of drifting.
When you told me that quote, I bristled at it. I was like, no, I don't. And also, how do you know? Right? Yeah. How do you know, Joe Dispenza, that 90% of my thoughts are exactly the same? But then as we were talking about it, I was like, well, do I have patterns that I would like to break? I do. Where do patterns in action come from? Probably my thoughts. Interesting. I probably think, I don't know if it's 90% or not, but I believe that.
Yeah. I mean, your thoughts become things. I mean, so the chair you're sitting in, right? Like someone had to think of what would I like to sit in and would I like it to be cushioned or not? What would the colors be? What are the materials? I mean, like that thought then turned into something tangible in reality. So if 90% of your thoughts are unconscious, non-inspected, if they're the same every single day, then you're probably going to be getting a lot of the same results, which is why when you start to look at the year ahead, it is so damn important to be intentional about designing it. And this conversation today is really about giving you some tools on how to think about planning your future differently. A story that broke my heart that highlights this concept of 90% of your thoughts are kind of the same one day over the next. I live here in New York City. I went to an open mic night a few years ago, and this woman takes the stage with 10 of those like black and white composition books, right? And they're her personal journal.
That's a horrible intro to open mic night. First of all, open mic night already is a little bit scary going to.
Because you never know what you're going to get.
You never know what you're going to get.
That's the best part about it, man. If there are 10 people who take the stage, like 8 of them are just horrifying.
Just bomb it.
You just go for the 1 or 2, right? And this woman delivered. So
but if I saw a woman up there for open mic night with 10 journals.
But you didn't know what they were, right? She just walks up with like a stack. And we're like, okay, what's this? And she's like, I've been journaling my entire life. Each one of these books represents 1 year of my life. And when I write in my journals, I write every single day. I never look back. I never read anything. It's just for me to get my thoughts out. And she goes, today is the day that I would like to read you some of my journal entries. And it'll be like me reacquainting myself. So she goes, today's June 6th, 2016. Pick a year. She yells out to the audience, like, pick a year and I will read a journal entry from June 6th of that year. And she allowed us to yell out 3 different years. So we were like 2006, someone said 2011, someone said 2015. So she goes in 2006, she starts to read this journal entry, and this is the first time that we hear about this man named Jason. I met Jason. He made my fucking, butterflies in my stomach flutter. I seem to like him more than he likes me. I hope that I get his attention. And she goes on to tell a whole story about that. Fast forward to 2011. Jason cheated on me again. It seems to be I can't keep him from straying on me. I love him so much. Why won't he? And then, on and on about Jason. And then she skips forward to 2015 or what was the journal that she pulled. And then it was another story about Jason moving back in again to her place for like the 3rd time. They'd broken up many times, in and out, in and out. And as she's telling this story, you can see that she is now coming to this awakening of, holy fuck, the last decade of my life has been dictated by this man, Jason, who has been jerking me around, my heart around, my attention around, my life around. And like she was even getting smaller as she was speaking, as she was reading the journal entries, because again, she hadn't read these at all. And it broke my heart to watch this one woman come to that reckoning, but it also illuminated this fact that all of us have a Jason in our lives. Maybe not necessarily a person that's been jerking us around, but some sort of obstacle, like a demon that has been following us around that we've either been ignoring, we haven't recognized its prevalence, it's a problem we haven't figured out how to solve. And you can actually fucking waste 10 years of your time with it if you don't interrupt that pattern.
And I think the scariest part is we often don't even know what that is or don't see it.
She didn't.
Right.
Right? I mean, and she thought this was the guy that like she was meant to love until she started reading her journal entries and she was like, whoa, this guy has been dictating my entire life. And I've given over, I've abdicated the responsibility of my life and placed it in his hands. So this is your opportunity to actually come face to face with where you may be doing that in your life, whether it's a limiting thought pattern, whether it's something you said you're going to do about leaving corporate and starting your own business, or you're going to start that blog, or you're going to start that passion project, or you're going to rekindle the relationship with your wife or your girlfriend, or you're going to go out and find love, and you say that over and over and over again, but you never do it. This is your chance to do that. So step number 1 in designing the next year of your life is actually we're going to look back at the last year of your life. And I know that leading up to this, like I gave you a little bit of an exercise to do. I went through the same exercises. One of the best things you can do about looking back over this past year, because you said life goes fast. We can forget all of the stuff that had happened over the course of this past year. And I said to Brian, I want you to do 2 things. Number 1, take a look at your calendar over the last year. Just start June 1st, come up to this point and look for standout moments. Beginnings, endings, places that you traveled, new people that entered your life, people that exited your life, victories, temporary defeats, disappointments, big successes. Look for all of those things through your calendar. And then also, Brian is a big journaler, so I said, look through your journals also as well and then pick out the standout moments there. If you're not a journaler, then your calendar is going to be probably the number one place for you to really do an inventory.
I know in one of our previous episodes where we talked about doing a reflection like we did with this exercise I went through, but it was over a 10-year period.
Right.
And that was really cool because there's this long history, but it's zoomed out. Getting to the real specifics of over a 10-year period is a bit tougher. Doing this by using this tool of going to the calendar, of going to the journal, can get really specific. And so what I started to recognize was, I know where I'm at today. I know where I was at yesterday in specificity, but to go back to the details of what was in the journal, to see the meetings that were on my calendar, the people that I met with back in, let's say, March, added a level of specificity that gave me insight to, interesting. That's why I happen to be here right now.
Yeah.
And so it was really, really cool. And a lot of the stuff I had forgotten about.
Give us some specific things that came up as standout moments for you.
Are we talking about like high moments and low moments, just a standout in general?
Exactly. So
okay.
either one, and tell us if this was like a high moment, a low moment, a moment of transition for you, a beginning and ending.
The year started with endings. So I was dating somebody and I looked back at my journal. I could see what was starting to bother me in the relationship and how I was trying to work through it. And when I got to the point of this is not working out anymore. And so the big moment, the standout moment for me was the willingness to work through it, the gratitude for what it was, and then the saying, and this isn't right anymore. That was really big and a tough piece in the beginning of this year.
Were you able to feel back into the emotion of that moment as you were reading through that journal article or journal entry?
I know consciously that I felt sadness back then. I didn't feel that bubble back up. What I did feel bubble back up was the gratitude piece. Was the wow. And part of it is because what was in my journal. And I said, wow, I'm really thankful. Here's all the things that I've learned in this relationship because of this person. This person pushed me to my edge. And I learned a lot. So the gratitude definitely came back up.
And the gratitude I look at as almost like a dividend payment on an investment that you made, right? It's like you put money in the bank or you invest in a stock and you forget about it. And then like this dividend is like, oh, I just got a little extra payment because I went back and I revisited it. There are so many of these moments that take place over the course of the year that we just kind of blow by. And that was like a massive transition point for you because I was right there with you. And the courage to leave a relationship that you had invested so much time, energy, your heartbreak into, and then to go back into the dating pool again, and then to find someone that you've now moved in with. Right?
And that's the big thing, Dom. So as I continue to go through my journal, I said, wow, like all these things in my previous relationship that I am so thankful for, like I wouldn't even be in the relationship I currently am without going through that gauntlet. Right. And so that's why I'm so appreciative and like, but what are my new beliefs associated with this and how do I want to do it better? So yeah.
Right on. What was another standout moment for you?
About that same time in March of last year, I gave this one a title. It's called 3 Weddings and a Funeral.
Okay.
And so I had a couple of my best friends. I stood up in one of the weddings. I was the best man in another one. And then right in between those 2 weddings, my grandma passed away.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I went to her funeral. And so there were some massive highs and lows and traveling. And one of the things that popped out in the journal to me is I used to repress a feeling of sadness. To the point where even if I went to a funeral, I could feel my eyes start to tear up. I would try to repress that. Like, no, like men don't cry. This time at my grandma's funeral, when I felt that come up, I just said, wow, let's see what happens here. And boy, did it come up and come out.
I remember you talking about that.
It was such a beautiful moment for me. And that was definitely a standout moment. And again, thinking about the gratitude of who my grandma was and realizing the environment that she created for me was one of love. And I didn't recognize that. I didn't really realize that until that moment. So that was a big moment for me.
And I would also, as your friend, look at that as like a big indicator of your emotional growth, right? Like, I mean, your very first men's retreat was with me back in 2017. And you went into that men's retreat kind of skeptical other men and not really knowing how to express or feel your emotions. That was 2017. Here you are, 2019, and you're able to actually openly feel your feelings, cry, express those emotions. So like in a 2-year period of time, right, there's been like an extraordinary amount of growth and development. I went through this exercise in a way where before I went through my calendar, before I went through any of my journals, I just dropped into a meditation.
You didn't give me your secret exercise.
You know what? I just said go right to the
This is the super powered one, right?
Well, and here's another way for you to go about it. And I actually just wanted to see what would come up, right, without looking for it first. And there were some amazing things that came up for me. You know, like we started this podcast earlier this year.
Was that 2019?
That was this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Now we started recording some of it in 2018, but we launched it in 2019. I didn't even realize this until recently, but this was the first year that I spoke openly about my sex addiction, my 4 years in Sex Addicts Anonymous, right? Because this year I've been talking so much about it so openly, I forgot that this was the year that I went public with it.
It fascinates me, Dominic, whether it's like lessons from a relationship or what you're talking about here and openly talking about something that was very personal, very sensitive to you, how fast it becomes a new baseline.
Yes. And that's why the reflection element of this is so important, because that baseline you could forget was established this year. You don't give yourself credit for it. And then you forget how much you've accomplished or how much is possible to accomplish in the year ahead because of these baselines that we establish. I completed an 8-month intimacy workshop that helped me to understand like how to create magnetic polarized relationships. I ran my very first women's retreat this year. Spoke to 7 women's groups. 2 of those were with you, you know, and so there was a pretty long list that came out, and I'm like, I think I've got everything. And then I went to my calendar and I was like, holy shit, I forgot that I interviewed Daryl Davis, right? The black man who attends KKK rallies. He was like a hero of mine in 2018. I actually reached out to him, had the courage to. He said yes and allowed me to interview him. I spent 4 hours with him, which was amazing. Giving a keynote speech to Cap Trust, which is the #1 financial advisory firm in the industry that I left. I forgot that happened this year and I fucking rocked it. And I got clients from that. So there was a few things that came in just from looking at the calendar and my journal entries that I had no recollection of.
For those ones that you forgot about, Dom, or even the ones that came up in meditation, how did you feel as those came up for you?
Same thing that you felt, right? It was like just like that emotion that came up again, that actually not the same thing. It was the joy of reliving that experience. And then that sense of, wow, I've forgotten how much I've done. No one's harder on ourselves than we are. I can be brutal on myself, and to actually know that, wow, I've accomplished quite a bit. I've just forgotten to take inventory of it.
Yeah.
Really was inspiring.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing because I talked about my grandma dying and a breakup that I went through, and this exercise of reflection in whatever mode of the calendar or meditation or going through a journal, I found a lot of gratitude in that and a lot of lessons and appreciation. So even for you, Dominic, a lot of the accomplishments, you can relive that and feel it. So this exercise is it can be scary because people are like, I don't know if I want to go back there. But my encouragement to everybody listening to this is, even if you go back there, even if the moments weren't as planned, there's some real value in there. And what we're finding, at least what I found, was appreciation and thankfulness.
Right on. Yeah. And Maya Angelou is the one who said, how can you know where you're going if you don't know where you've been? And so the 1 year reflection is super helpful of that. All right, let's wrap this section with a few things before we start to turn our attention forward to 2020. In the meditation that I'll be guiding you through here shortly, I actually do help you to go back in time to ask some questions about this past year. But again, you're going to want to maybe do it the way that I did it, which is first just kind of close your eyes, start writing down like what comes to mind, top of mind, about the highs, the lows, the beginnings, the endings, the new people, the people that have left.
Can you write and close your eyes at the same time?
No, I'll close my eyes and then write.
I don't know if I can do that.
Yeah. Or you can actually like put your recorder on and like keep your eyes closed and just like talking to it.
These are good. I feel like the details here are important.
Thank you for diving into that. So again, look for these standout moments. And then even some of these questions you can ask yourself, like, where was the favorite place that you've been to this year? What was the most impactful book that you read? What was the most important relationship that came into your life? What was a relationship that left your life this year?
Dominic, I did this 2 years ago, something similar to this. 2 years ago when it comes to books and podcasts and inputs that I brought into my life. I actually just put them on a PowerPoint slide and showed them to my family over the holidays. Here's what I've been doing. Yeah. I only see you guys 3 times a year. This is what I've been doing. What do you think? And it brought up a lot of cool conversations with them and also some reflections of my own.
And that will lead to much more interesting holiday discussions than the typical boring bullshit.
Yes.
All right. That was the year behind you. Now let's talk about the year ahead. One of the things that Brian and I have done thematically over the past few years is we give our year ahead a one-word theme. Give some examples of themes from your past, and then we'll get to what your 2020 theme is.
The origin of this goes back to right out of college. I had a friend's dad tell me that in the year 2000, I think it was maybe 10. Yeah, it was 2010. And he goes, my theme this year is Big in 10.
Big in 10?
Big in 10. I go, I don't get it. What does that mean? He goes, I'm going to be big in 2010. I go, well, great. What? I don't get. I still don't understand. He's like, I don't know. It's just going to be a big year. I'm like, okay, fine. And I thought it was funny. And so since 2010, I've been doing these themes. Now, admittedly, I hadn't been doing a lot of this work that you and I do together, Dominic. And my themes were similar to big in 2010. So they weren't all that useful or practical.
Okay.
But in 2017, you mentioned the men's retreat that you ran. That's when I started doing a lot of this work. That was my first theme where I really did something with it. And my theme for that year was intentionality. And I didn't know what I wanted to do with intentionality. All I knew is that I felt like I was moving through life doing activities without a lot of purpose. I was just doing things to do things. That's all I really knew going into that year. And now I've done 3 themes since then. And I know that what I'm supposed to do in that theme will come to me, that I've seen played out over the last 3 years. That year, somebody came to me and said, hey, if you're going to do a year of intentionality, have you ever thought about meditation? And at that point, I had never meditated before. As a matter of fact, I thought meditation was a joke, was part of the occult, was something that strange people did. But I said, you know what? If I'm going to do intentionality, okay, great. Change my life. For me, meditation is really, really big, a huge part of my life today. I can't go a couple of days without meditating now. I can feel the effects of it. So that's one example.
And that's the power of like one word, right? This intentionality versus like a goal, right? You know how people do New Year's resolutions and it's like, here's the thing I want to stop doing or start doing. Here's this thing that I want to accomplish. I want to lose this amount of weight. I want to make this amount of money. This is different. This is something that's actually more contextual. It has more flexibility. So intentionality opened up the doors for something like meditation to appear, something like a men's retreat to appear, things that you would have typically dismissed. But like it did fall under actually, if meditation can bring me more intentionality, more presence into my life, or a men's retreat can bring more intentionality to the relationships I have with other men and how I relate with myself inside of my context with other men. Okay, like these all are pieces of the puzzle that then fit together. So that's the importance of one word. So what do you have for 2020?
Well, and here's a hack when trying to figure out what is your theme for 2020. First of all, I throughout the year write down ideas. As I go throughout the year, I have a little note in my iPhone and say, oh, I think this is something. And what I find those words or themes to be are places that I'm afraid. So we talk about every emotion that we have has intelligence to it. The intelligence of fear is a want for something to be known. And so when I looked at intentionality, my fear was I didn't want to spend alone time by myself. Right? I didn't like that.
Alone time by myself. How else would that work?
Right, exactly. It's very meta. But I would always have a distraction available to me. Yeah. And so I said, interesting. Like intentionality, I'm fearful that I'm not getting things done that I want to accomplish and that I can't hang out with myself seems kind of strange. Boom, intentionality. The year after that was get loud. I was hardly on social media, but I wanted to get a message out. And so my fear point was getting a message out to the public that might not be received well. Theme was get loud. Okay. This past year has been abundance. And we can dive into that detail. This coming up year for 2020 for me is all about movement.
Tell me why you picked movement.
So I picked movement because there's a few reasons here. Number one is one of my biggest fears for years now, and I'm happy, and I frequent it more often these days, is around dancing. My body just doesn't quite move to the rhythm as you might see a good dancer move.
I've seen you dance. I know what you're talking about.
Right. It's very staccato. And I feel like that's a part of my life I want to expand, because I think with Rebecca, my girlfriend, I would love for that to be something that we can incorporate and dance together. I think it can be sensual, it can be connective, it can be fun. I often find myself at events, like a wedding, for example, where there's dance, and I repel from the dance floor until I have enough drinks where I can actually get on the dance floor and then dance and have a good time. Yeah. I would love to be able to just get on the dance floor and dance normally. The last thing is, there's been events here in New York where I've met some really cool people. Daybreaker is one of them. It's this morning dance party. There's another one called the Get Down, which is, I think, Thursday evenings. Yep. Then there's like no drinking, but there's dancing. And I meet really cool people there. I like the idea of moving, but I feel strange doing it.
All right, man. So what is your big word for 2020?
All right. So my theme for 2020, and this came to me probably about 6 months into 2019. And I've been assessing whether this is it. Is this the right theme for 2020? Is it? I don't know. And it is. It's officially the theme for 2020 is movement.
All right. Tell us why.
Well, it's that 2020 is a big year for me. I'm turning 40.
Aha.
And I've noticed my body starting to be tight. Sometimes I'll look at myself in a mirror. My posture is not great. I wanted this to be my intention. My theme for 2020 is to like really be flexible, to get movement going, and also to move faster in a creative sense in life.
Okay, so not a physical sense.
Both physical and creative.
Physical, yeah. And what do you mean by creative sense?
Creative sense, I feel like this 2019, I've had a lot of roadblocks that have felt slow from a business standpoint. I'm selling my business. I've had to deal with some heartaches with co-founders and investors, and it feels really slow. Yep. And so I want 2020 to be like movement, like let's go, let's move, let's stop waiting.
Got it. Great. Okay, so that's your overarching theme. Give us an example. So when you pick your word, and as you can hear, Brian, there's some real emotional resonance there, right? I'm turning 40, my body's starting to feel stiff. I want to make sure that it's limber. I want to feel like I have command over it, and that I'm healthy for many years to come, and then also movement in the creative sense. So there's a lot of flexibility here. So then help chunk this down, Brian. Like, what is one specific thing or specific goal that you have that supports this idea of movement?
Great. So let's start with the physical. I want the physical representation of movement to be about dance. And dance is something that has terrified me, honestly, my entire life. I remember the very first dance when I was probably in third grade, and the music comes on, and I found myself going to the bathroom because I didn't want to actually be dancing.
And drinks weren't available to you.
Drinks were not available, right? Yeah. So dance has always been a thing for me that I haven't quite. I mean, you've seen me dance, Dominic.
I know what you're talking about.
It's not pretty.
Yeah,
it's not something somebody would want to watch. And I would love to feel the rhythm more. I would love to be able to move my body in a way that feels really good, that I could go to a wedding, I could go to a party and dance and actually enjoy myself as opposed to being anxious about it.
Got it. Cool. So then one of the things that we're going to teach you guys to do is when people set their goals for 2020 or any year or whatever goal they set, they tend to put a goal down, like Brian is right here, around, I want to learn how to dance. And what we're missing are two essential elements to really fortify whether or not that's going to happen. And the first one is, let's say that you've accomplished this mission. You are now a fucking dancer. Like you now not only don't embarrass yourself, but you can get on the dance floor.
This is the dream. Yes.
And you can make it happen. And like you're spinning your girlfriend around. How is your life different? What is like the payoff of having achieved that?
Oh gosh, I'll keep this short, but it could be really long. I see moments with my girlfriend where we're just at our apartment and just moving together and we're dancing and the music's on. It's like this connective environment. I love that idea. I love the idea of going to a club with her or going to a party with her and just moving and dancing and like that being a new form of communication for us.
Yeah, it opens up options for you of things to do. You don't have to be talking. It's like your body, it's your emotions connecting on different levels. Okay. So now you know that the juice is worth the squeeze. And as you're listening to this episode, if you're thinking about whatever your goals are, whether it's making a certain amount of money, losing a certain amount of weight, starting your own business, it's like, yes, you can achieve that goal, but it's what happens after that. Like, what's the feeling that you are after? Because everything that we do, every goal you ever set is really because you are in search of a feeling of some kind. And if you're not clear on the feeling, not clear on the payoff, then when times get tough, you will abandon that goal, the pursuit of that goal. The other element that's often missing is, what are you willing to give to achieve that goal? Right? Like, what, Brian, are you willing to invest in dance lessons? Are you willing to invest in looking like an ass and going out to a few daybreakers and dancing and looking like a fool in the effort of...
Yeah, there's a massive chasm between the dream of feeling really great about this dance thing and where I'm at today.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think you're asking,
what are you willing to give
bridge
to get
that chasm?
Yeah.
Right. What am I willing to do there? Getting dance lessons, absolutely, totally down for that. And I think this is going to be about repetition. And I've told myself in the past, this is something I've known for years, as I mentioned, in fourth grade, right? This is something I've known for a long time, but I haven't done anything about it. And so the question is, great, like, how many reps can I get in? Can I go to a daybreaker? Can I go to a get down? Can I put music on? And I think the most awkward, actually, those are easier. The most awkward is actually like being in my family room, either by myself or with my girlfriend there, practicing. Okay. That terrifies me.
By yourself, it terrifies you?
Yes.
Why does it terrify you to be by yourself and practicing?
Because I just feel strange when I'm doing it.
Yeah,
yeah.
You can feel strange, but to be terrified by yourself?
I'm telling you, it's a strange thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the question is, are you willing?
I have to make sure there's no mirrors around.
Or video cameras. Are you willing to do these things? Like, I'm really going to press on this. Are you willing to invest money for dance lessons? Are you willing to carve out time, like once a week, twice a week, to go get those lessons? Are you willing to every day dance by yourself for 10 minutes? Like, are you willing to do some of those things?
I'm willing to do some of those things. I think the idea of committing to 2 dance things a week seems heavy.
Right. So now it's time to get specific. It's like, what are you willing to give?
I would like to go to 2 events a month where I'm publicly practicing what I've learned throughout that month.
Okay.
That feels good. And then what I've learned through that month, I don't know how to learn that stuff yet. I don't know if there's dance coaches, if I even need a dance coach, or if I need to go to Equinox classes and do some hip hop. Maybe I should go find Gina DiNapoli and she can help us. Is it DiNapoli or DiNapolis? DiNapoli. Okay. She can rock it out at Equinox. So I don't know what the mechanism is to learn quite yet. But I'm definitely down to spend some money to make that happen.
And this is where the rubber meets the road. For every one of you who are listening, it could be like, again, learning how to dance for Brian, or maybe like dropping a certain amount of weight, getting healthy in a certain, maybe attracting the woman of your dreams, whatever it is. If you're not clear on what you're willing to give to get there, then it will fall to the wayside. And even having someone like what we're doing right now to ask probing questions of you, like bring this to one of your buddies and say, here's what I'm planning on doing. And then ask them to play the role of the inquisitor, right? It's like, okay, we'll get curious. What are you willing to give? And then also start to get clear on what you're not willing to sacrifice also. For example, when some of my clients say, I want to make $500,000 next year, I'll ask them, great, what are you willing to give for that? But then also, what are you not willing to sacrifice? Like, I'm not willing to sacrifice my relationship with my wife or my time with my kids. I'm not willing to sacrifice my personal, physical, mental, emotional health in order to make that money, right? Like, I just want to be smarter about how I do it. I'm willing to work a little extra, but I'm not willing to sacrifice. So to get clear on that.
This is an important point, Dom. In 2017, my theme was intentionality. I said, a friend mentioned, hey, have you thought about meditation? So I said, no, and I don't know how to meditate. I wouldn't even know where to start. He said, I use Headspace. Great. I spent $75 on Headspace, and I committed to doing it every day. And it started with, I think, 3 minutes. Perfect. And that was great. And now it got me into what my morning routine is. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I know I can sit down and meditate. And it's like part of the fabric of my life now.
Perfect. And that's exactly how this stuff goes down. So let's bring this one home.
Do they have a Headspace for dancing? Now I'm really thinking through this. Would be
That's
great.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You look that up. I would be surprised if there's not something.
I would love to wake up to a 5-minute, look at the TV and practice dance.
Like practice
like
one
Peloton
move,
for dancing.
Like practice one move for a week, and then learn like a next move for a week.
I have John Travolta in my head right now.
If anyone knows what that
if that exists,
send it to Brian, and we'll be checking on your progress early next year, man.
Great.
Let's summarize all of this before we lead you to the meditation. And by the way, like I said before, those meditations, this meditation, along with the other meditations from our previous podcasts, are available at doinnerwork.com/resources, Or if you just go to doinnerwork.com, there's a resources tab there. On that resources page, by the way, we've got every single free download that we've ever put together. Like the book lists that we love, the 18 books every business leader should read, 12 books every man must read, 15 books written by women that we love, the 5 practices to becoming an emotionally tougher man, 5 practices to last longer in bed. All of that is available for download at any time at doinnerwork.com/resources. And we're going to probably update that once a month with a free download. So go back there. Summarizing this episode, in order for you to have the most meaningful, fulfilling, prosperous, memorable year of your life, then you need to bring intentionality to the year ahead. And the best way to start with figuring out what you want for that year ahead is to take a look at where you've been in the years past. So look for the standout moments, maybe drop in first and just kind of reflect on what stands out to you over this last year of your life. Look for beginnings and endings, highs and lows, new relationships that ended, and start to create an inventory of that. Use your calendar also. It could only take like 5 minutes just to go through your full calendar to see where you've been and what you've done to add to that list. If you have a journal, go through that as well. Maybe even talk to your significant other. That's not something that we brought into this conversation. And then take a look at that list and see where's their unfinished business. Like what's a chronic recurring theme that I need to overcome? Where do I need to double down? Or what's progress that's been made that I can actually continue to grow on? And then finally, it's looking forward to the year ahead. What is the one theme that will guide, like your North Star, that will keep you focused on what you want that year to be about? For Brian, it's movement. For me, we didn't get into mine today, but it's about love.
Oh, you don't think that's going to let you get off the hook on getting into your 2020? Yeah. So what is it? It's love.
It's love. Yeah.
Okay.
But we got to move on here in terms of timing. We can visit that another episode.
For inquiring minds, email.
It's love. Yeah. And then as you start to think about what your goals are that support that, you want to define your goal. You want to also get very clear on what's the payoff of achieving that goal, and then what are you willing to give to get that goal, and then what are you not willing to sacrifice in your pursuit of that.
Before you dive into the meditation, make sure you're in a place where you can settle in, settle down without distraction. If you're driving or working on something else, please finish that first and come back to this later. Also, you'll get more out of this meditation if you do the 1-year look back exercise that Dominic and I talk about in the podcast beforehand. Enjoy the meditation.
Taking these next few moments to settle in and settle down. You're about to embark on the exciting journey of looking at where you have been over this last year and envisioning the year ahead, designing the most meaningful and fulfilling and prosperous and memorable year of your life. If you haven't already, bring yourself to a comfortable position, whether that's sitting or lying down, whatever that feels good for you. Seeing if you can bring a symmetry to your body. If you notice that one leg is bent and the other one is straight, can you either bend them both or straighten them both? Allowing your jaw to soften. Noticing any parts of your body where there may be tension and sending relaxation to that part of you. Perhaps you've already closed your eyes, and if you haven't, I'll invite you to do so now. Leaving the external stimuli of the outside world behind for just a few moments to connect inward, acquaint yourself with yourself, bringing an awareness to your breath. Perhaps you may notice that simply by bringing awareness to your breath, things start to slow down. dropping into this present moment. And some people like to slow down and drop in even further by taking a breath in through the nose and twice as long out through the mouth. You might choose to continue that cadence for the next few breaths, recognizing that you're slowing down and relaxing. And in this space of relaxation, where you don't have to do anything, where you can observe your thoughts going by like clouds in the sky, where you don't need to think, that these questions and scenarios that I'm about to pose to you don't require any effort whatsoever for you to answer. Perhaps you'll notice that as I guide you, that images will appear, sensations and feelings will bubble up, and perhaps even thoughts will come to your mind effortlessly. It's been said that to know where you're going, it's very helpful to know where you have been. So I'd like you to imagine that in front of you has appeared a calendar containing all of the contents of your last year. Perhaps you keep a calendar like this, or maybe even a journal containing the places that you've been. Where have you been this year? What stands out? What about the new people or that one person that entered your life this year that stands out? What about the people or that person who left your life this year? What were those things that you accomplished this year? Both big and small accomplishments. Those subtle wins that maybe the rest of the world doesn't know about, but to you they matter. What hardships stand out? Losses, temporary defeats, setbacks. What stands out? How do you feel financially about this last year? Noticing any sensations that came up in your body or any thoughts in your mind as you heard me say the words financially. Take a sweep of the last 12 months and find if there's anything else that stands out to you. Beginnings, endings, surprises, disappointments. Here is your opportunity to identify something that you would like to take to the absolute next level. Something from this past year with potential to grow, to deepen, to expand. Is it your relationship? Your business? Your well-being? What do you need to take to the next level? Where is their unfinished business? Something that requires your attention, that needs your repair, or simply the ball is at the 1 yard line and needs to be put in the end zone. Where is their unfinished business? And then, what have you been avoiding over the past year that this year ahead you will finally address? Taking a moment and perhaps a few deep breaths in and out, leaving this last year behind. And turning your attention to the year ahead, full of possibility. A brand new canvas on which to paint. Now is your opportunity to dream and to dream big. If this next year of your life was to be the most meaningful, fulfilling, prosperous, and memorable year of your life, what experiences would you want to have? What one one relationship would you want to invest in most deeply? What do you want for yourself financially? Not just the number, but the feelings that go with that number. What is one area inside of your personal life that you want to invest in most? Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What would you like to experience sexually in the year ahead? Where is a place that you will go that you have never been before? If there was one word to define your year ahead, what would it be? What specific goal have you already had in mind that you want to accomplish? And envision yourself already having it. And what does that feel like already having it? How is your life different, better, upgraded by having it? What is that thing that you have been avoiding that you will finally confront and get right this year? And if you were to hop into your time machine and set the date to exactly 1 year from today, and you were to land in your ideal scenario, having accomplished all of these things, feeling the way that you want, surrounded by the people you love, feeling that you have designed all of this into being. What would that feel like? Soak in those feelings of already having had it. And now that you know how good that tastes, what are you willing to give to get that? What changes are you willing to make? What difficult decisions will you be ready to handle? What new habits are you willing to install? What help will you ask for? And what is the first step you will take right after this meditation is over to lay the foundation for the most meaningful, fulfilling, prosperous, and memorable year of your life? Bringing your awareness back to your breath. Anchoring in any last thoughts or feelings that you want to bring back with you into the real world. Wiggling your fingers and toes. Moving your body just so gently to slowly start to acquaint yourself back to wherever you are. Slowly bringing your eyes to an open, knowing what your next step is to design the next year of your life. Hey, did you get something of value out of this podcast? If so, I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you be so amazing as to go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review? Your ratings and reviews can show someone who's just discovered our podcast for the first time that we are worth listening to. And that way we can reach a wider audience. So please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. You rock.